got the wrong man, sire. I was born in a brothel on a bridge in Londinium.
The sword can only be drawn by Uther Pendragon, or his direct heir. You felt it, didn't you? The power. That's what put you out. You just don't know how to control it.
So what happens now?
You know what happens now. You're quickly becoming a legend.
Set.
This is Michael Faulkner, and it is showtime at the May 9th, 2017 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you on the Chronic Crypt Network. This week's birthdays include Tracy Lords from Blade and Gilmore Girls, Stephen Amell, the eponymous Emerald Archer from Arrow, Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie and Babylon 5, Rosario Dawson from Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and The Defenders, Paige O'Hara, Belle from the animated Beauty and the Beast, Catherine Tate, Donna from Doctor Who, Domhnall Gleeson from Star Wars The Force Awakens and the Harry Potter series, and finally, last but not least, comedian Stephen Colbert. Starting with the box office reports, audiences welcome the return of the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy. At number 10 is Going in Style, down 3 from 7th. At number 9 is Smurfs The Lost Village, down 1 from 8th. At 8 is Gifted, up 1 from 9th. In 7th is Bahubali 2, The Conclusion, down 4 from 3rd. And finishing out this week's spot on 5 is The Circle, down 1 from 5th. The top 5 this week begin with Beauty and the Beast, up 1 from 6th with $5.1 million and a new total of $487.7 million. In 4th place is How to Be a Latin Lover, down 2 from 2nd with $5.1 million and a new total of $20.5 million. In 3rd place is The Boss Baby, up 1 from 4th with $6 million and a total of $156.5 million. In 2nd is last week's winner, The Fate of the Furious, adding $8.6 million to a total of $207.2 million. And blasting into theaters for a big box office win is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, chalking up $146.5 million. That is nearly 80% of this weekend's top 10, and is the second highest opening in 2017 behind Beauty and the Beast. It's also the 5th highest opening for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, beating the first Guardians film by $50 million, and coming in behind Iron Man 3, Captain America Civil War, and both of the Avengers films. It also scored well overseas, pulling down $285 million, with China, South Korea, and Russia leading that charge. This week's opening pushed the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the $11 billion mark worldwide. Audiences gave it an A. Critics gave it an 82% positive reception. I scored it 9 out of 10, and I really want to go see it again. It's that good. Let's close out the box office report with a look at what was winning in years gone by. 5 years ago in 2012, Marvel's The Avengers took number 1 for a second week with $103.1 million. The Avengers broke Avatar's record for the highest second weekend gross of all time, and it also became the first film to gross $100 million in its second weekend of release. 10 years ago in 2007, Spider-Man 3 won the weekend for a second week with $58.2 million. That's still a lot of tickets for something so reviled in fandom. 20 years ago in 1997, Leeloo Dallas Multipass and The Fifth Element was the winner with $17 million. 30 years ago in 1987, The Secret of My Success took the title for a 5th and final week with $3.8 million. And 40 years ago in 1977, Annie Hall took the box office crown for a 3rd and final week with $3.9 million. The box office premieres for May 12th start with a legend. This week's headliner is King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, an adventure drama starring Charlie Hunnam, Astrid Berges-Frisbee, and Jude Law.
Maggie, I now realize what an important member of my household you are.
Your Majesty,
I'm finished. Sit down. Till recently, I didn't recognize what a powerful tool you could be in the right hands. I thought you were simply a pawn. Turns out you're a far more significant piece. And it would be witless of me not to use that to my advantage, given how effectively you've been used against me.
you are a cunning old bastard, Vortigern. But what you fail to understand is that it's you who's fed the hangman that will eventually come for you.
Robbed of his birthright, Arthur comes up the hard way in the back alleys of the city. But once he pulls the sword from the stone, he is forced to acknowledge his true legacy, whether he likes it or not. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword is rated PG-13. The other wide release this week is Snatched, a comedy starring Amy Schumer, Goldie Hawn, and Kim Carmel.
I want to focus on you and me on the beach. Are you with me?
I can't go to South America.
What are you talking about?
I can't go to Ecuador.
You know it's a non-refundable trip,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't want to make it about money because money comes and goes, but I don't have any more
Right. See,
coming right now, so it's
I'm breaking
bad.
up with you.
When?
Like, right now. This is it. You're in the middle of it.
You don't want to lose us. You don't want to lose
No, I
this.
don't. No, just no. All right, this is the thing. You don't have any direction in life.
What does that mean?
It means you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything.
Okay, you know what? I am
It's-
so sorry, honestly, but I'm sorry, but I want to see other people.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you're great, but I have a lot going on right now.
Yeah, I'm heartbroken.
When her boyfriend dumps her before their exotic vacation, a young woman persuades her ultra-cautious mother to travel with her to paradise, with unexpected results. Snatched is rated R. There are also 6 titles on this week's limited slate, and you can find those in the show notes. Next up is a look at the home entertainment slate for the week of May 9th, and it is a sparse slate. I'll start with new release on DVD and Blu-ray, and that list contains one title. That's 50 Shades Darker, a drama starring Dakota Johnson, Jamie Dornan, and Max Martini. While Christian wrestles with his inner demons, Anastasia must confront the anger and envy of the women who came before her. 50 Shades Darker is rated R. Swinging by new release on digital video, I have one title there. That one is Rock Dog, an animated comedy starring Luke Wilson, Eddie Izzard, and J.K. Simmons. When a radio falls from the sky into the hands of a wide-eyed Tibetan Mastiff, he leaves home to fulfill his dream of becoming a musician, setting into motion a series of completely unexpected events. Rock Dog is rated PG.
The animals, trap, trap, trap till the cages fall. The cages fall, the day is new, and everyone is waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time.
Moving right along to TV on DVD and Blu-ray, I have one title there. That one is Orange is the New Black, Season 4 from 2016, starring Taylor Schilling, Michael Harney, and Kate Mulgrew. This is the story of Piper Chapman, a woman in her 30s who is sentenced to 15 months in prison after being convicted of a decade-old crime of transporting money to her drug-dealing girlfriend. In Season 4, new faces and old resentments make for a potentially volatile blend, especially now that Litchfield is a for-profit business. Overrun with new inmates and overseen by inexperienced guards, the prison undergoes an unprecedented cultural war. Now, just to break up the pattern a little bit, there are a handful of classic re-releases this week in TV on DVD, including Ironside, Mannix, The Streets of San Francisco, and a repack of Alf, the complete series. Wrapping up the home entertainment slate with Blu-rays from the past, I have one title there. That one is The Accidental Tourist, a drama from 1988 starring William Hurt, Kathleen Turner, and Gina Davis. An emotionally distant writer of travel guides must carry on with his life after his son is killed and his marriage crumbles. The Accidental Tourist is rated PG. After this brief break for about a shameless podcast cross-promotion, the Weekly Podioplex will continue.
The Terminus Doctor Who podcast. Queer. Opinionated. Whovian. Female. The Terminus podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher and many other favorite podcatchers. You can find us online at terminus.libsyn.com or on Twitter at terminuscast or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/terminusdw podcast. Or finally on Tumblr at terminusdwpodcast.tumblr.com. Be sure to check us out there and subscribe to keep up with new episodes. Alonzi.
And welcome back to the Weekly Podioplex. I'm Denise with your Quick Flicks. First on our list, Godzilla vs. Kong release date moves up 1 week. The movie is a culmination of 6 years' work developing the shared universe between the two monsters that started in 2014's Godzilla reboot and 2017's Kong Skull Island. Fans eager to see the two monsters share the screen are getting their wishes granted by a whole week. Deadline is reporting that Warner Bros. Made several changes to its release slate, with the news of Godzilla vs. Kong being the most noticeable, moving from May 29, 2020 to May 22, 2020. The movie allows the film to take advantage of Memorial Day weekend, when American audiences will be off from work. The change also puts the monster movie in closer proximity to a still unknown Marvel movie, and only a week after the release of the new Scooby-Doo reboot. Here's a Scooby-Doo reboot? Really? If you're wondering why studios are jumping on the segmented, serialized film bus, blame Marvel. Seriously, it's all their fault. The movie universe, the whole kit and caboodle. All of it. Their fault. Talking of Marvel and superheroes, Marvel's Runaways will premiere on Hulu this winter. The wait has become that much shorter. The announcement was made following Hulu's network Upfront's presentation, and phrasing may point to the series debuting in November or December of 2017. The winter season extends to the following year, so an early 2018 premiere is not wholly out of the question. In more TV news, the BBC is adapting War of the Worlds for television. If you know anything about anything, then you know modern science fiction began with War of the Worlds and Frankenstein. H.G. Wells' 1898 novel about a Martian invasion of planet Earth has spawned numerous film adaptations and a panic attack when listeners tuned into Orson Welles' radio adaptation of the book embellished with fake news reports of an alien invasion of New Jersey. All of the adaptations previous have been set in the States, all of them, including the one MTV is making. However, the one the BBC is producing will take viewers back to the book's original setting, Surrey, England, potentially making this adaptation one of the more faithful yet. Variety reports the new War of the Worlds has been ordered up by the BBC as part of an 11-series commission and is set to go before cameras early in 2018. The 3-episode series will be written by Peter Harness, who has previously worked on Doctor Who, Wallander, and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, another fantastic book if you haven't read it. Harness confirmed via Northwest Evening Mail that his version will take audiences back to Wells' original Victorian settings, saying, "I'm feeling phenomenally lucky to be writing the War of the Worlds and blowing up gigantic swaths of the home counties at the dawn of the 20th century. Wells' book is ground zero for all modern science fiction, and like all the best sci-fi, manages to sneak in some pretty astonishing comments on what it is to be a human being, too." Harness talked about his ambitions for the series, which will include more than just Martian fighting machines blasting helpless humans with laser eyes. "I'm hoping to follow in the great man's footsteps by making a terrifying Martian-packed series which manages to be emotional, characterful, and, deep breath, dare I say it, even political at the same time. I'm excited for this. I'm a huge fan of H.G. Wells, and The War of the Worlds was really a great book. Orson Welles did a fantastic job in his radio performance too, and I even think it's available on iTunes if you're ever inclined to listen to the broadcast that panicked a nation." In movie news, did you know Dwayne Johnson was making a Jungle Cruise movie? I did not know Dwayne Johnson was making a Jungle Cruise movie. Apparently, there's a Jungle Cruise movie. If you're confused as to what the Jungle Cruise is, it's a ride in Disneyland and Disney World that takes you through, you guessed it, a jungle. It also talks about logging and the effects of climate change, and it has some really great and unsettling visuals to that effect, but yeah, it's pretty much a ride that The Rock is making into a movie. And he wants Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins to do it. He said, "Patty has that really cool edge. I feel like she could be a really cool choice for a movie like Jungle Cruise. Plus, you know what? I'm just a big fan." I mean, I'm all for it. Screw it. It's about time Disney put something else out besides Pirates of the freaking Caribbean and that awful Haunted Mansion movie. Hope remains for the inhabitants of Charm City as NBC's Powerless is not dead yet. The freshman superhero sitcom debuted to less than stellar ratings, and the fate of the show seemed sealed when NBC yanked the remaining episodes from the schedule. The network later announced it would be airing the remaining episodes, but fans everywhere began mourning the series, assuming death was coming for it anyway. However, showrunner Patrick Schumacher took to Twitter with a hopeful message, inspiring a hashtag among the devoted fanbase. Things aren't looking great for the show, but the plug hasn't been pulled yet. Remember what happened to Constantine? It's likely that while NBC might finish airing the season, the show will ultimately be cancelled. My condolences to fans of the show, I feel your pain. Up next, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable sequel will be titled Glass. It's coming in 2019. The filmmaker revealed the news in a stream of Twitter updates. He said, "Okay, here we go. Finished the new script. It's taken 17 years, but I can finally answer the number one question I get. Are you making a sequel to Unbreakable or what? My new film is the sequel to Unbreakable and Split. It was always my dream to have both films collide in this third film. The iconic Bruce Willis returns as David Dunn. The incomparable Samuel L. Jackson will return as Elijah Price, Mr. Glass. The virtuoso James McAvoy returns as Kevin Wendell Crumb. Patricia, Dennis, Hedwig, Barry, Jade, Orwell, the Beast Heinrich, Norma, Pohl, and the prodigy Anya Taylor-Joy will return as Casey Cook. I'm re-teaming with my partners Jason Blum and Universal Pictures for this crazy comic book thriller, and the film is called Glass. Universal Pictures will release Glass on January 18th, 2019 all over the world. How's that for not keeping a secret? I've never actually seen Unbreakable, but I know fans of the movie are excited for the news. 17 years is a long time to wait for a sequel. I am not side-eyeing Guillermo del Toro, Mike Mignola, and Ron Perlman right now. Yes, I know Hellboy 3 isn't happening. That doesn't mean I'm not bitter about it. Thirdly, a Roseanne limited revival series with the original cast is in the works. For 9 seasons, the popular sitcom detailed the none too glamorous daily travails of the Connors, a working-class family scraping by in a small town in Illinois. Roseanne was notable for its believable depiction of lower-class family life in Middle America. Roseanne was a ratings giant from the get-go and remains to this day one of the most beloved sitcoms ever, and now Deadline reports that a group, including original producers Barr, Tom Werner, and Bruce Helford, along with Sarah Gilbert and Whitney Cummings, are putting together a proposed limited-run Roseanne revival series. All the major cast members, including John Goodman, Laurie Metcalf, and Big Bang Theory star Johnny Galecki, are in talks to reappear in the 8-episode series in one capacity or the other. The show's original network ABC is reportedly the frontrunner to land the series, though revival-happy Netflix is also in the running. I've never watched Roseanne. I was actually a kid when it was on television, and sitcoms were never my thing. But again, I'm happy fans of the show get to see it come back for an admittedly short run. Fourthly, the Vampire Chronicles TV series is optioned by Paramount. Really? After the mess studios made of Queen of the Damned? Paramount is developing a television series based on the Vampire Chronicles. The first book, Interview with a Vampire, introduced readers to vampire Lestat de Liancourt as the antagonist to hero Louis de Pointe-du-Lac. Starting with the second book, The Vampire Lestat, the former antagonist became protagonist, and most of the books of the series have remained Lestat's story, except Pandora, Vitolia the Vampire, and a few others I can't remember at the moment. It's a long series of books. And we're not going to talk about the Mayfair Witch Chronicles. Annoyed with Marvel Comics crossovers? Try reading the Vampire Chronicles and running into names you never heard from the Taltos series and the like. The books have remained wildly popular over the last several decades, making over 80 million, and there have been a few attempts at adaptation over the years, the most popular of which is the 1994 Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Kirsten Dunst movie. We're not going to talk about Queen of the Damned. It was awful. Completely ripped out the plot of the book and substituted in terribleness. The only good part was the soundtrack. Anne Rice is trying again, however. After regaining the theatrical rights to her properties, she began to look for the right production company to adapt the Vampire Chronicles for television. According to Deadline, both Paramount Television and Anonymous Content are bringing the Vampire Chronicles to TV. Now, someone would only bring Anne Rice, an editor. Anne, along with her son Christopher, will executive produce along with both companies. Christopher will also write the series. Mother and son have already completed the series Bible and written the pilot. They will be showing the projects to networks soon to find the Vampire Chronicles a home. Paramount Television president Amy Lowell spoke about Anne Rice in her books. She said, "It's undeniable that Anne Rice has created the paradigm against which all vampire stories are measured. The rich and vast world she has created with the Vampire Chronicles is unmatched and sophisticated with 90s gothic undertones that will be perfectly suited to captivate audiences." The series is full of compelling characters led by Lestat, arguably one of the greatest original characters, literary or otherwise. David Cantor from Anonymous Content also released a statement. "Together with our partners at Paramount Television, we are embarking on a fantastic journey with Anne and Christopher Rice to bring Anne's unparalleled imagination to television at the moment when the medium is experiencing a global apex in the demand for the most outstanding, exciting, and heightened premium dramatic programming." Okay, so I loved Anne Rice when I was a lost and very confused 13-year-old. I even wore a trench coat around New Orleans because of Lestat de Liancourt, and my deep, if you are not detecting the sarcasm in this sentence, then we can't be friends, connection with the books and their meaning and how not like a damp washcloth Lestat and his waxing philosophic about his undeath was. Admittedly, he is still one of my favorite literary characters, and that will never change. He is also what happens when you try to humanize monsters. And finally, for all you Boondock Saints-loving fans, the movies are getting the small screen treatment in a series entitled Boondock Saints Origins. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the show, then I don't know what will. Don Carmody Television announced they'll be reteaming with Troy Duffy to produce the show with David Cormican on board as executive producer. Duffy said of the new series, "A television series is the perfect medium for storytelling inside the world of our beloved blue-collar superheroes. The brothers have always been defenders of the people, justice, fairness, and the city of Boston. In this sensitive time of human rights, unrest, government scandal, and civil corruption, there couldn't be a better moment to relaunch the brothers' iconic brand of justice in the cradle of democracy. I, for one, do not mind the brothers' return." And that's it for this week's Quick Flicks. I'll see you guys next time on the Weekly Podioplex.
Thank you, Denise. And here we are once again at the end of a new edition of the Weekly Podioplex. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, we would love to hear from you. You can surf on over to the Chronic Rift homepage at chronicrift.com and leave an audio message right there on the website using your microphone. You can also write an email or send an MP3 to weeklypodioplex@gmail.com. If 140 characters or less is more your thing, you can still tweet us on Twitter. The Chronic Rift is chronic_rift. The Weekly Podioplex is Weekly Podioplex. Denise is Riley James Keith. And I am Womprat99, like the creature Luke Bullseye is T16 in Beggar's Canyon. You can give the Chronic Rift a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio, leave us a review on iTunes, and find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook. Of course, the usual disclaimer applies. If you leave us feedback, you may hear your words on a future edition of the Weekly Podioplex. Take a moment, stop on by, and see what the shows the Chronic Rift Network has to offer. We have Cyborgs, a Bionic podcast, the Batcave podcast, the OSI Files podcast, the G2V podcast, Generations Geek, presenting the transcription feature, the Dan and Travis Show, the Sci-Fi Diner podcast, Doctor Who and Mr. Drew, the Home Game Show version podcast, and so much more. If you have a Roku player, you can also find us there on the Chronic Rift's Roku channel, where you can find episodes of the Chronic Rift's adventures in the 1990s when it was a public access television show in the New York City airwaves. Check us out and find the culture in pop culture. While we're plugging things for the network, it is once again time for the Parsec Awards. If you think that one of the shows I just mentioned, any of the shows on the network, or even the Weekly Podioplex are worth the attention of the most prestigious awards in podcasting, nominations are now open at parsecawards.com. If you're interested in more of my adventures, take a quick trip to my blog, Creative Criticality, where I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who for the first time from the very beginning of the franchise and reviewing those tales in the Timestamps Project. Right now, the blog is running toward the end of the 18th season, the final season with the 4th Doctor, and those reviews can be found at creativecriticality.wordpress.com, and you can also find Creative Criticality on Facebook. Denise can also be found on the internet at Accessories Not Included, where she talks about her writing, reviews books, and offers her services as a cover designer. Check her out at accessoriesnotincluded.com. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make to that store supports the Chronic Rift Network. Your support keeps us on the air, and we appreciate your consideration. Look for the links to our best bets in the network store in our show notes, or click the Amazon box on the website. The Weekly Podioplex is a Lucky Shot production and is produced by John S. Drew. On behalf of Denise and John, this is Michael Faulkner. Thanks for listening. Until next time, there are adventures and drama, comedy and action, worlds to explore in the depths of film. Get some popcorn, find your favorite seat, and I'll see you at the theater.